So our theme this month has been inspired by Labor Day, which occurred the first weekend of September, as it always does. And the idea for our month is to create a life that works without all the hard labor. Because I absolutely believe that life can work beautifully, and it doesn't have to be a lot of work. When we live from certain spiritual principles, when we apply certain spiritual practices, and then when we trust God for the rest, life absolutely does work. Now, that doesn't mean it won't have its little bumps in the road, as Amy said. That was perfect, Amy. Yeah, life does have its bumps. And when we live from certain spiritual principles, apply our practices, and leave the rest to God, even those bumps in the road, actually I won't say even, I will say those bumps in the road become the vehicle by which we go to that greater life that absolutely works. So we described, over the last couple of weeks, we've described what a life that works is. And we've added a couple of things to it. And I want to give you now the full definition that we've come up with as a life that works. And you tell me this morning if there's anything else, because we have one more Sunday. We can talk about this, and we can add anything new that you want to put in. But here's what we've identified over the course of these last 2 weeks and Sundays as well as Wednesday night. So here they are. First of all, a life that works is one in which we feel a deep connection to Source. A life that works is one where we have dynamic, vibrant, and radiant health. We like that? A life that works is one where when we are in the financial flow. And we added last week, thank you, Rick, that when you're in the financial flow, there's plenty of snacks. We decided we needed to add plenty of snacks, right? I recorded that because you said it, and you're important. He says, I'm not saying anything else today, right? We are in we live in capital C coincidences. Meaning these serendipitous things just happen to us. There's opportunities and resources and ideas just drop in our laps. When we are living a life that works is defined as one in which we are having loving, solid relationships, in which we are at peace and we are happy. Here's one that got added Wednesday night. We are living a life free of any addiction. That was really important to one of our members to say that a life that works is a life free of any kind of addictive behavior whatsoever. We are joyously sharing our talents and our gifts. We love the work we do, and we are serving and giving to others. That's the list we've come up with. Anybody want to add anything to it, or do we think that's a good list? Pretty complete list, huh? All right. So that's the life that works, that we're talking about this month, creating without a lot of hard work. And today we're going to focus on the question, what are you saying yes to in your life? What are you saying yes to in your life? Because actually, here's the deal. We often say yes to a lot of things that we don't want, that makes life more challenging, that makes life a lot more work. But we say yes to it anyway. Why is that? Well, I love Ceresa's, that's an amazing song. I asked for that song this morning because I knew it would fit so perfectly. But as I was actually listening to the lyrics, I didn't realize how perfectly it does fit today, because I know where we're going to go today. I know you don't know that yet, but I do. And oh my gosh, there were little bits of my talk throughout that entire song. So way to go. See, capital C, coincidence. There it is. And there it is right there. But as Cerise sang about, when we say yes to life and to our dreams, God says yes. And here's the other thing, because the part of God that says yes is the law. And the law is neutral. So the law actually says yes to anything we put in it with feeling and heart. So if we're putting our dreams and our goals and our wishes and our intentions for this expanded life that works into the law, then God says yes to that. And that's what we sing about. What we don't sing about is that God's law also says yes when we put into the law with passion and feeling what we don't want. And we often put into the law with passion and feeling what we don't want. That feeling is often called fear. That's a hugely powerful feeling. So yes, the universe says yes to whatever we put into the law. Let's put into the law. Let's say yes. Let us say yes to that life that works for us. All right? Make sense? Yeah. So today I'm going to give you 4 ideas that all work together to create a life that works with a lot less work. All right? So I'm using the word work a lot because we're going to take W-O-R-K and use it as our places to remember these 4 ideas. So W-O-R-K. We're going to take 4 letters and work with those to put them together to create a life that works without so much work. Yep, get your pens out because you are going to want to write these things down. So the first one is to remember that there is tremendous power in our words. Thank you very much. Tremendous power in our words. Especially words that are holy and aligned with divine. I love the idea that words of truth are 100 times more powerful than words of untruth. Michael Beckwith said that once. I don't know how he knows that, but I trust Michael, so I'm sure it's true. Right? Right? Exactly. So I'm going to give you a little example of the power of words, okay? So there's this businessman who had put everything he had, heart, soul, and all of his money into his business, but it just wasn't going well. And it was actually, he was at the brink of disaster. Business was failing. He'd put, as I said, everything he had into it. His home was mortgaged to the hilt, and he couldn't make his next mortgage payment. Didn't know how he was going to get food. Car was about to be repossessed. Everything was in jeopardy. He was at his wit's end and did not know how he was going to go on. And so at that point, he decided to make an appointment with his minister. Why do we wait that long? Why do we wait that long? But that is another story where I'm not going today. All right. So he finally makes an appointment with his minister and goes in and pours out a whole sad tale and says, I need help. What do I do? And the minister says, I know exactly what to do. This is what you're going to do. You're going to get a beach chair and your Bible. You're going to put those in the trunk of your car and you're going to drive to the beach. You're going to pull the chair out, put it right up against the water, put the Bible on your lap. You're just going to sit there for a little bit. Get calm, look out at the beauty of the ocean and of God's expansive nature that you're seeing in the ocean and the sky. And when you feel yourself calm, you're going to open the Bible. Just going to let the breeze turn the pages. And when the pages stop, look down, and the first words you see, read them and take action on them. Know that those words are God speaking to you. So read them and take action on them. Businessman said, okay, so he left. Minister, as often, we don't hear what happens. So minister didn't know, but a year later, the businessman comes back. And he is dressed to the nines. His wife is with him, dripping in jewels. His kids are all shiny and clean, drives up in a brand new car. And he says he wants to come in and speak to the minister for a minute. The minister recognizes him, remembers him. The man pulls out a wad of money and says, here, I want to give you this. I want to thank you so much for that wisdom you gave me a year ago. And the minister's going, okay, so you went to the beach and you sat on the beach? Businessman, yep, I did. And you got calm, and yep, I did. And you put the Bible on your lap, and you opened it, and you let the wind, yep, that's exactly what I did. And then it just landed on a page, right? It opened, and the businessman said, yep, that's exactly what happened. And the preacher said, and then you looked at some words, and they were God's words. You knew they were God's words for you. And he said, yep. And then you acted on them. Businessman said, yep. The minister says, okay, keep me in suspense no longer. What in the world were the words? Chapter 11. You knew I was going to need that, didn't you? Any story that has that long of a buildup is going to need a drum, right? Okay, so maybe not those words. Maybe it's not those words, but our words are really, really important. In fact, our words are a powerful agent of the mind. So in religious science, we say all the time, because our founder Ernest Holmes said this all the time, change your, not enough of you knew that. So apparently I have not said that enough. So let's do it again. Change your, thank you. Change your thinking, change your life. Now here's a little tiny challenge with that. I absolutely agree with that. 100% yes. And here's a tiny little challenge. We have approximately 60,000 thoughts that go through, science has told us, go through our brain every dang day. That's a lot of thoughts. And a good chunk of them are not even conscious. They hang down below the level of our awareness. So changing those thoughts, that's a job. No doubt that's kind of some work. I want to give you an idea that will help you change your thoughts. That's not quite so much work. And that is focus on the words that come out of your mouth. Because those you are conscious of. At least you're conscious of them by the time they get out. You might not be conscious as they're coming out, right? Right? They might not be conscious as they're coming out. But when they get out there, you are now aware of what you've just said. Are those words supportive of a life that works? I love these words from Florence Scovel Shinn in her book, The Game of Life and How to Play It. She says, all the good that is to be made manifest in our lives is already an accomplished fact in the divine mind. And so it is released through our recognition or our spoken word. Therefore, we must be careful to decree only the divine idea, that only the divine idea be manifest. For often we decree through our idle words failure or misfortune. Let's stop decreeing failure and misfortune and instead decree with our spoken word the life that works for us. Ernest Holmes in This Thing Called You, I love that Amy used that this morning. It's my favorite book of Ernest Holmes, my favorite. He said, and this is on page 22 for those of you who like to look things up, when the time comes that nothing goes forth from you other than that which you would like to have in return, then you will have reached your heaven. Right? So heaven, that sounds like a life that works. There's an old saying that goes like this: if we take care of the pennies, the dollars will take care of themselves. You've heard that, right? Well, us older folks have heard that, right? Younger people might not. But it's an old saying, and it's true. If we take care of the pennies, the dollars will take care of themselves. Well, if we take care of the words that come out of our mouth, then those 60,000 thoughts will take care of themselves. They will be shifted. I promise. That is how it works. Great note from the universe that I kept for a time to use, and it's perfect for today. It goes like this. Psst. Not that you would ever do this, but when someone tells their best friend about their difficult day, or how tricky relationships have been, or that they have a jolly good life in most regards except financially, not only do they relive the unpleasantness, but they commission all the elements of the universe to project into their future whatever they've been claiming. Besides, you'd never say jolly, but it's just better to whisper sweet nothings. Love the universe. So our first idea for creating a life that works without all the work is to pay attention to the words that are coming out of your mouth. So I want you to just think, because I always like to make this very practical. Can you think right now of a phrase or something that you tend to say that perhaps doesn't serve and support you? Okay, I'm seeing some heads go yes. I'm seeing some blank stares, and I'm seeing some don't ask me look on your face. I see that. It is rhetorical, but I'm asking, right? Yeah. Yes. So right now, I want you to think about, right now, let's make this so practical so you can take it out there. Think of right now, whatever that phrase is, you don't have to say it. I'm not asking for you to say it. What could an affirmative statement be about that? Think about that. Think about that. Even write it down right now so that next time those words come out of your mouth, you will go, oh, you know what? Cancel those. I'm going to say this instead, and then say this instead. You do that enough, and the first originating thought will not be there anymore. Instead, it will be replaced by the second words. Now, if you have trouble coming up with what that might be, that is what our spiritual life coaches and ministers are here for, to help you with that, yes? So that's your first idea. Words that are in line with the life you want, not the life you don't want. We want to say yes to what it is we want. All right, takes us to the O. Our O is something that we looked at last month. So for some of you, this will be a review. For others, it'll be new because you might not have been here. And we have a gift for you around this, so I wanted to come back and revisit it, and it's perfect for today. And that O is, remember last month we explored a book called The One Thing. You remember that? The One Thing. And on that Sunday, we said, ask yourself one question. And when you ask that one question, things will shift and change because that one question brings you into the now moment. And the now moment is where the divine lives. God lives in this now moment. I love these words from Charles Fillmore of the Unity movement. He said, let us live in God's world, not in a world that's tomorrow, next month, next year, or next century, but here and now. God's beautiful universe is all about us, only awaiting our acknowledgement of its presence. Let us know God and live with love and joy and health and peace here and now. So this question that we asked, this one question that we asked a couple of weeks ago, helps us zero into this now moment where God resides and to live with joy and love and health and peace. So here is my question, and there is a reward for the one person who can tell me what the question is. Sharon. Oh. That's really close. That's close. Let's see if anybody gets closer. Okay, Barbara.
What is the one thing I can do right now or today to help me move forward and advance spiritually?
That's beautiful. Not it. Beautiful, but not quite it. Okay, a couple more. Kevin.
What can I do to solve my problem?
Wow, good. Not it. These are all good. These are all good, but we're not quite on it. And it's so powerful. I want you to know it. Okay, Amy, one more chance.
One thing I can do right now that would make all of the things unnecessary.
Oh, yes. I'll say it. I will say it. Catch. Charles, duck, because here it comes. Nicely done. Here it is. What is the one thing I can do such that by doing everything else will be easier or unnecessary? Oh, you were close. You were all close. You were all on the block. You were, yeah, it's that easier or unnecessary part that you weren't getting, and I wanted you to get that. What's the one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary? What a powerful word. That causes us to zoom in and focus on whatever that answer is. Now, how many of you, and I will put myself right into the category, so I will raise my hand first. This is not a rhetorical question. I want to know. How many of you even sort of pride yourself in the ability to multitask? Oh, yeah. I can get more done. I'm more efficient. I'm more effective. I can get 10 things done in the space of time. I'm a good and everything gets my full attention. I'm good. Wrong. Research has actually shown. Research has shown, and it just makes total sense, and I won't go into all the details. It's fascinating. This is in the book, The One Thing. Fascinating research. But it says that when we multitask, meaning we flit from this to, because we can't do more than one thing at a time. We think we're doing more than one thing. Well, no, we're not. We're spending this much time here, and then 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 here, and then. When we do that, we expand the time it takes to do any one of those between 25 and more than 100% more than if we just focused on it and did it. So we think we're saving time? Oh, no. Oh, no. You're spending 25% to 100% or more, depending on the complexity of what you're working on, in more time. So multitasking is actually not really a very effective thing. The one thing causes you to focus, causes you to come in and be with that one thing in the here and now. And so what we said is, before I give you the examples, I want to read this quote because I love it. It comes from the book, The One Thing. Poet laureate Billy Collins once said this about multitasking. We call it multitasking, which makes it sound like an ability to do lots of things at the same time. But a Buddhist would call this monkey mind. Right? Right? We think we're mastering multitasking, but really we're just driving ourselves bananas. So let's stop driving ourselves bananas and instead ask the one thing question. So that Sunday that we explored this, we applied it to areas of our lives. Things like spiritually, we said we could ask ourselves, what is the one thing I can do to deepen my relationship with Source such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary? What a question. In our physical health, what's the one thing I can do to achieve my greater health and vitality such that by doing it, everything else will become easier or unnecessary? Relationships. What's the one thing I can do to show love to my partner, my spouse, such that by doing it, everything else will become easier or unnecessary? In a job, what's the one thing I can do right in this moment, such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary? Or in our finances, what's the one thing I can do to support my financial freedom, such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary? So you can plug in specifics to this question. But it's always the same question. So to help you remember this, we have a gift. And we have a blessed benefactor who created these for us and had them printed and laminated. And I'm really grateful for that. And so our ushers are right now gathering. And so once again, like we did last month, we're going to pass the plate and you get to take something out of it. We're starting a precedence here. Come on, guys. You can come on up and just deliver. So we're going to do this quietly as I keep talking about other things, but we are going to, we'll have in a minute, a reminder, since clearly you needed it. I'm just saying, you were in the ballpark, but you weren't home, so I want you to come home with that. Take one and put that wherever you want it. We have a lot, so if you feel like taking two, you want to put it in two places, please do. We have an abundance, all right? And again, I thank our private donor for giving us that. So we've talked about word power and the one thing, W-O. We're going to go to R and K. And they happen to dovetail together. They happen to work perfectly together. But we'll first talk about R. And R stands for something that is so fundamental and so basic and so profound and so life-changing that I wish the word work started with an R, so I could have started with this. But I couldn't respell work, so that didn't work. But we'll take it now. R. R stands for our relationship with God. What is our relationship with God? I remember 10 years ago when my mother was in the process of, I didn't know it at that moment, but I discovered later, in the process of making her transition. And she had been going downhill and was having lots and lots of challenges. Although challenges that the doctor said really didn't need to end her life. But she had gotten to the point where she wasn't eating anymore and didn't want to eat, said she couldn't eat, wasn't eating. And so the doctor said, we have a choice because her systems are starting to shut down. We either put a feeding tube in her or she dies. So we need to know what to do. And they were telling me, you're her daughter, you're the one. And I have to admit that was not a conversation that I could have with my mother. And so I had a beloved friend / congregant who was a hospice chaplain at the time. And she had been doing some work with my mom, and I called Stephanie and said, Stephanie, would you talk to Mom and see what does she want? So Stephanie talked to her. And Stephanie called me and said, well, here's the deal. And your mom gave me permission to share this with you. She absolutely is ready to go. She wants to go. She does not want a feeding tube. She wants to go. But here's her fear. My mom she didn't practice her religion, but she was very steeped in Christianity. And, we have a little bit of different view on Christianity than a fundamental Christian does. So she said, here's the deal. Your mother is ready to go, doesn't want a feeding tube. But she is so worried about you and your sister that you haven't been saved. And she can't go, because Mom was very much going to take care of the two of us. She can't go until that happens. She is so worried about that. And I went, oh, okay. So I went to her hospital bed. I sat down with her. I took her by the hand. I looked in her face. I said, Mom, I need you to know something. God and I are really, really good. Really good. And that's the same with my sister Trina. Trina goes to Unity Church, so I knew she was good too. I said, if you want to go, you can go. You don't have to let that hold you back. Don't let that keep you back. And I'm okay if you say it's time to go. And she said, well, okay, if you're sure you're good with God. I said, I'm sure. I am so positive that I'm good, really good with God. And she died in less than 72 hours at total peace because she was good with God too. And she knew her daughters were as well. So my question for you this morning is, are you good with God? Are you really, really, really good with God? And if you're not sure, if that answer in your head was, oh, I don't know. So here's your question. What's the one thing, right? What's the one thing you could do to deepen your relationship with Source such that by doing it, everything else would be unnecessary, easier or unnecessary? What's the one thing you could do to make sure that relationship was really, really good? Which takes us and dovetails us perfectly to our final letter, which is K, standing for knowing. Not believing. Believing and knowing are very different. Believing is good, but believing will not serve you when times get difficult. Believing will abandon you when trouble hits. Knowing stays with you always, always. So knowing what? Knowing who and whose you are, which goes back to your relationship. I said these fit together so perfectly. It goes back to your relationship with God. Knowing who and whose you are. Knowing, absolutely knowing God to the best of your ability. Knowing your oneness with God. Knowing your right to an abundant flow of good. Knowing that you are love and that you deserve love. Knowing that you are whole, perfect, and complete inside and out. Not flawed, not broken, whole, perfect, and complete, deserving of a beautiful life that works. Knowing that the pattern of perfection lives at the core of your physical being. Now, I get it, that sometimes we can't stand in that knowing on our own. I understand that. Why do you think we exist? Why do you think CLF exists? Why are there ministers and practitioners and spiritual life coaches? Because we can't always stand in that knowing on our own. We sometimes need help. And those of us who are ministers and spiritual life coaches need it as well. And we reach out to each other to stand in the knowing for us. I want to give you a personal example in our community of someone who couldn't know for herself. But our congregant care team, which is our featured ministry this month, their information is in the pew pocket in front of you. Our congregant care ministry and the beautiful souls, Reverend Cindy, who oversees that, and then all the beautiful souls who are part of it, stood in the knowing for her. This was Sharon Davis. I'll point Sharon out in a minute if you don't know her, but hold on, I want to tell the story first. Last December, Sharon had an emergency surgery that the surgeons did not want to perform because they didn't think she would make it through. They didn't think physically she would survive the surgery. But without the surgery, she would not survive. So they said, we've got to do it. Sharon's son called me before Sharon went into surgery and said, I just want you to know, Sharon, who's been with this church since the beginning, Mom's going into surgery and it doesn't look good. Those were his words. It doesn't look good. It doesn't look good at all. I called John Halliburton, part of our congregant care team. I said, John, can you get to the hospital? He dropped everything and was there in, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever it took him to get there. And he sat with the family, holding high watch in prayer. He said, I didn't say very much. I just sat there in prayer, holding high watch for family dynamics, which were stressful and challenging, and knowing for Sharon that her vibrant divine pattern of perfection was being revealed through the surgeons and the anesthesiologists and the doctors. Sharon survived that surgery. She came out of it. It wasn't an easy road coming back. She had to have another surgery. more stays in the hospital, rehab centers, skilled nursing centers, physical therapy. But I talked to Sharon on Friday. Well, I said I wasn't going to tell you who it was, but I'm telling you, aren't I? Okay, it's Sharon Davis. She's sitting right. Sharon, stand up. There she is, right there. Right there. Woo! Right there. So I talked to Sharon on Friday, and she said to me, I absolutely know, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that the love and the care and the prayers and the prayer bearers and the coloring books and the texts of affirmation when she couldn't have visits, and the calls and the visits and all the knowing of the congregant care team are why she is alive today and why her doctors call her a walking medical miracle because of our congregant care ministry. Sharon has purple hair. You know why? Sharon has purple hair because she is celebrating life every day. So let's celebrate Sharon and her purple hair every day. Yeah. So this is what people can do for us when we can't do it for ourselves. So our sweet congregate care ministry today has a table actually in the Holmes Hall, our fellowship hall, through those two double doors. Go to that table and find out more about this amazing ministry. Find out how they can support you in knowing when you can't know. And find out how you might be involved with them, because it's a great group. They meet right outside my office once a month, and they have a good time in those meetings, and a lot going on. And did the little magnets get handed out this morning? So when you came in this morning, you got a magnet to remind you of their work and how to connect with them. So please go see them at their table after the service, because they are a powerful group in our community who can stand in the knowing. They're not the only group. There are other groups who do that as well, but they are our feature for this month. So we want to create a life that works without all the work. Remember, W-O-R-K, your word power. Your words have tremendous power, so don't let anything go forth from your lips that you do not want to have returned in your life. Or said a different way, perhaps in an affirmative way. See if you like this. If you do, we'll say it together. I only let words pass from my lips that I gladly, joyously, and eagerly welcome back into my life. Is that good? Do we like that? Ooh, okay, here it is. I only let words pass from my lips that I gladly, joyously, and eagerly welcome back into my life. Okay, that was practice. That was practice. Now we're really going to do it. Yeah. You can stand if you want. You don't have to. But I only let words pass from my lips that I gladly, joyously, and eagerly welcome back into my life. Nice. Nice. And then we ask ourselves, what is the one thing? What is the one thing I can do? Let's say it together. You can all say it because you have it right there. Again, on that little laminated sheet. Here we go. Let's say it. What is the one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary? Ask yourself that again and again and again and again. Relationship. What is your relationship with God? How about this? My relationship with God is good. Really, really good. How about that for an affirmation? My relationship with God is good. Really, really good. Stay there. Because I know who and whose I am. Let's put that all together and do it. My relationship with God is good. Really, really good. Because I know who and whose I am. And in that, we close our eyes. We take those words in. We anchor in them. We deepen in them. And we know that we have opened ourselves up. We have readied ourselves to experience God and life at a deeper level, at a more joyous level, at a more fulfilled level. We know that as we practice these ideas that work together to create a life that works without so much work, that we are blessed beyond belief. And of course, as we are blessed, we then are a blessing in the world. Because it is a life that works for everyone that we truly affirm and know here today. So in acceptance, in affirmation, in gratitude, and in joy, we call it done. We call it good. And together we say, and so it is. Amen.